Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth and bonus hangout in this amazing Hangout Heroes series. And today we are talking to one of the most amazing, most accomplished, very well-known copywriter, Mr. Jon Benson. Hey, Jon.
I thought you were going to say Jay Abraham, but hey, how do you like the casual look today? It's a long story behind why I'm wearing a baseball cap and unshaven, but it's an interesting one, and I'll tell you about that story in just a minute. But first, I just opened a loop there, didn't I? That's my NLP coming out naturally. So we're going to have Jay Abraham, if all the technical gods and goddesses will allow this to happen. Jay Abraham will actually come on to the Hangout today. I have messages that prove it. But until then, so Jay, if you don't know who Jay is, he's widely recognized as one of the godfathers of marketing himself. He is a trainer to some of the best marketers in the world. He's worked with Tony Robbins. He's worked with Chet Holmes. He's worked with, I can just go down the line of the people that Jay has worked with. One of the guys that was the original guy behind Metrics. It goes on and on and on. So he just texted me saying his daughter is controlling it. I'm in office awaiting whatever we're supposed to do. So Yafat, maybe you can give Jay a little help there. So this is the issue with Google. It's like it's not as easy as just clicking a link as it is to go to a webinar. Apparently there's more to it than that. So Jay was gracious enough to come on, and we struck up a friendship just basically from an interview that I did with him and Joe Polish. And that interview ended up being one of the most requested interviews on Joe Polish's channel for I Love Marketing, and it was an honor. I thought I was interviewing Jay. Is how I came out, and it ended up being almost him interviewing me more than me interviewing him, which was really kind of weird because Jay is definitely a living legend, and he's going to be joining us. And we're just going to have a chat. There's nothing planned here, folks. There's no quizzes. There's no nothing. I'm not dressed up, which I'm normally not, by the way. I normally wear T-shirts, and I don't shave, but for the Hangouts they're going to last forever. So I figured, well, I might as well put a little effort into it. But today I was dealing with crap that you should never be dealing with, that kept me from having to actually do the things that you should be doing. And I would love to talk about that, Yafat. In fact, I would like to dive right into that. How do you like that? So
I told Jon that if he's going to go into it, it's going to be a he said, she said kind of thing. So let's go.
It's a he said, she said kind of thing. So she being Yafat, by the way.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. My advice to every copywriter, every marketer, every person out there is that when you are in some sort of a creative mode, or you need to get something done creative, shut off every electronic device that you can. Don't listen to anyone coming into your office. Don't read any email whatsoever, because especially if you're going through any sort of strain or stress whatsoever, things like this can completely derail you. And for those of you who are listening, they cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars if you are derailed from your focus. If you are taken out of your game by trivial bullshit, it can cost you a lot of money, it can cost you a lot of time, cause you a lot of stress, and you end up with a dolphin cap on your head. Well, I actually like to wear the dolphin cap sometimes, so that's cool. But that's what distraction can do for you. And I'm really learning this from dealing with my friend Craig Ballantyne. Craig is teaching me a lot about how to focus your energies and what he does to focus his energies for Early to Rise. He is the head of Early to Rise, and wow, he's got an incredible regimen, man. So here's what he's doing, and I'll share it with you while we're waiting on Jay to come on. He said, give me 2 minutes, so he'll be in. He gets up at 4 a.m., which I think is an ungodly hour to get up. But he gets up at 4 a.m. regardless of the day. So he never sleeps in. Up at 4 a.m. and he has this list of things that he does until 7 a.m. He doesn't take the dog out for a poo. He doesn't eat breakfast. He doesn't catch a workout, and he's a fitness guy. He doesn't do any of that. He goes through all this stuff that most people just dread doing, or they're like, okay, this is the most important part of my day. And he has 90% of the most important part of his day done before the sun comes up, and it's really an amazing, like it's amazing testimony strategy. And so when I asked him, I said, well, you're not married. See, this is how you get by with this, right? If you're married or if you have a social life, this would be a lot harder to do. He goes, yeah, but he goes, I look at this the ultimate cure for temptation. So he doesn't have to worry about drinking too much. He doesn't have to worry about going out late. And there's Jay Abraham talking about.
John, I'm looking at the wrong camera.
I mentioned ultimate temptation, and Jay Abraham pops on. That I don't know if that's like just a coincidence or what.
I show up anytime, everywhere, anytime. That's the magic word. I show up everywhere.
Well, how you doing? I dressed up especially for you today, Jay. So I wanted to
wear a hat. I thought, no, you would. So this is my very first ever Google Hangout.
Cool. Cool. Well, welcome to the format. It's a little on the interesting side, man, especially with the.
Yeah, I like that.
So today I was just riffing on the fact that and I'd love to get you to riff on this if you think it's true. How much distraction, especially noise, especially rambling noise that goes on through email or calls or cell phone texts or people coming in to distract you and staff coming in to distract you, how much did that play a role in defeating some of your greatest marketing efforts, or did it? And how did you solve the problem, or have you? That's the first question.
That's a great question. But you realize that I have a context of bridging the gap. We used to do lots of direct mail and then email. In the beginning, we owned email because our communication was fascinating. I still am somewhat old school and like very deep and reflective and not superficial communications and style. But I think that truthfully, it goes back, John, to old school. It's got to have a lot of value, and it can't just be teasery and proposition. No matter whether it's short, whether it's long, it has to really, I mean, today more than ever, and I was thinking about it, I get, I don't know, maybe 500 emails a day. There's a food chain concept that I was thinking about last night. I have a couple of billionaires that I'm doing business with, sort of. The sort of means we get started and then they get diverted, and I try to bring them back with my emails. And I realize they get so many emails because I get so many emails, and it's a food chain. So I think that it's not the quantity, more than anything, it's your ability to engage their attention and their interest, or provocative. But I think today I'm not giving you maybe the answer you want. We've been pretty successful, but I don't do a lot anymore. But we always had outrageously different kinds of community. I mean, I always believe that if you do what everybody else does the way everybody else does it, you're probably going to get the kind of results everybody else gets.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of my point. But I'm more asking in terms of like your own personal productivity. Do you have any sort of ritual where you like shut down everything so that you're not bothered, or any hours during the day where you're like, no one disturbs me during this time, or no emails during this time, no phone calls during this time? It doesn't matter if the President of the United States calls me with a 911 message. Do you have anything like that?
Okay, so I misconstrued. Did you remember the old Saturday Night Live, Rosanna, Dana?
No.
Did you ever see those? Well,
No.
she would go and she would do TV commentaries, and she'd be totally off on a wrong tangent. When they'd say it's not about that, she'd say, never mind. So never mind what I said before. Let me recount.
It was good advice, though. It was good advice.
It was okay. So what I do is this. I try not to be a servant to communication. And the reason is I come from, again, I'm old school. I used to, if I wanted to communicate with somebody, I'd have to drive 30 miles on the highway and find a telephone. When you wanted to communicate a letter, you had to think about it because it was hard mailed. Even when Zap Mail, which was what came right at faxes, you had to really hand prepare it. I come from a school that says you think very carefully about what you do and say. You don't just do things to be doing things. I'm not obsessed with my phone. I sometimes don't look at an email for 2 or 3 days. I know you don't take voicemail, and I admire that. Your deal is send me a text, and I may read it and I may not. And while it sounds a little, very frankly, condescending. It's very astute. All we have, I mean, the difference between everybody watching, listening, you, me, we all have 24/7. Most of us don't really have that much greater of an intellect. How we use our time, our opportunity cost, our access, and our concentration is all we've got. And there's tons of science that says you really can't multitask. You can,
Right.
but you're
Right.
diluting the effect of all of them. It's mediocrity leverage. You're leveraging mediocrity.
Right. Right.
So
There's
that's the
a
answer
great
you
book
wanted to
written on
hear.
that. A great book written on the myth of multitasking, and you're not multitasking at all. There's no such thing. You're switch tasking. You're going back and forth between one task and another, and you're not getting either one of them done efficiently. And I'm very guilty of that. Trust me. There's things I do that I try to still do the multitasking of it. But let's talk about creative and I want to get into like how you've really influenced the marketing and advertising world to such an extent. Tell us a little bit about where your history comes from and some of the big things that you've done, and more importantly, how do you take those big things that you've done in the past and translate them today for people that are watching that are just now getting started on marketing online? I mean, so for example, marketing online wasn't even a concept, back in the 70s and 80s.
Sure.
Now it is, of course. How do you translate that into marketing online? Do you have any sage wisdom for that? And then we're going to bring on some people to ask questions.
Sure. And so understand this. I was grounded in ideology, philosophy, methodology that was spawned in the 1900s. And you could say, whoa, the 1970s weren't the 1900s, but human nature is pretty immutable. It doesn't matter what you believe in. If you believe in, a higher power, or you believe in Darwinism until, the Earth is destroyed by an asteroid or Armageddon. Human nature is human nature is human nature. If you understand human nature, it's a function of whether it's short, long, a little bit different verbiage, but you have to understand two things. First of all, it's not about me, it's all about you. When I had clients, I always was an advocate of their market. I always was an advocate of their prospect or their buyer. And if you're communicating in an email or you're communicating in I don't care, a landing page, a video sales letter, an ugly sales letter, you might be fortunate enough to get 1 million people to watch or read it, but it's 1 million individuals really being impacted, one human being at a time. And I think it's very important to put yourself in the shoes of the market. What I find about many people who are starting today and many people who are younger, they're in a hurry to use what I'll call veneer tactics, and they're not in a hurry to really immerse themselves in examining, understanding, appreciating, and respecting their market. And I'll give you one more thing and then I'll shut up. Is I've done an enormous amount of work on this concept called preeminence. And it really stems from three things. One, being seen as the most trusted advisor to your market. Number two, as an advisor, telling them what they need to do, not what will just sell them something. And number three, falling in love not with your product, not with your company, not with your industry, but with the people your product or service benefits, and with the understanding of how that enriches or protects their life. And that's pretty universal. I don't know if it's too abstract, John, but it's pretty universal.
No, I think that's awesome advice. The preeminence, we've talked about that before, and it's I mean, those three things people miss all the time in marketing. We've talked about this throughout the hangout, that to fall in love with your product or service is probably the most deadly thing that you can do in your marketing. It's still all about the customer's needs, wants, and desires, and what your product or service does to fulfill them is a huge difference in copywriting, especially talking about that versus what is so great about your product or service. And it's a mental shift that sounds really minor, but it's actually like a 180. It can really turn someone's perspective around. And I got to say this, Jay, I just noticed because Yafat made some, she made a comment. I don't have my comments on, but I saw it pop up. And Yafat was going, we should make this an R-rated hangout. I'm going, why? Because I said the word bullshit? I'm like, what the hell? And then I noticed there's boobs behind your head. And I'm like,
oh yeah, I'm actually, my daughter is here. I'll tell you a fun story, John. I have this magnificent nude behind my head, which my daughter doesn't want me to let everyone see the crotch, so I'm sitting with my head above it. But it's a magnificent piece, and I traded for it, except the guy that did it was a magnificent painter of sensuous nudes, and he was supposed to deliver this to me at home, and instead he got married and his wife got pregnant, and he brought me an 8 foot by 5 foot bunch of hearts, and I waited for like 3 years to get the nude, and my wife wouldn't let me put it in the house, so it's behind my head, but I hope I'm covering the right spot. But yeah, I mean, this is like, we're human beings, man. We like sensuality, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And here's what's funny. Here's what's funny. I did not notice. Yes, I will tell you outright. Everyone laughed. I did not notice, and that, my friend, is how distracted I am in getting on the call with one of my absolute heroes, Jay Abraham. I did.
Well, I got it. You're funny,
So
but I did it purposely to see if anybody would notice. Actually,
just so you know, all the comments are just about that.
Yeah, it's great.
It actually is a very stunning piece. It's a very expensive piece. I'll show it to you at the end. I'll keep it as a free bonus at the end. Okay.
Free bonus at the end. That's great, man. Well, as far as I'm concerned,
I'm here for you until I have to leave. So you guys, as I said, I'm a, and it's appropriate with the nude probably. I'm a, what do we call these again? What are we on? Chat? No, it's not chat. What is this? I'm a Google Hangout virgin, man. So you have to tell me what you want me to do.
That's great. Well, actually, what we're going to do is we're just going to chat. I mean, so this is what's cool about a Hangout is that we're going to chat, and we'll ask other people that have questions to come on, and they can chat with us, and we'll have just a little dialogue. I'm going to say right now, if anyone comes on and says something about the nude painting behind you, I will personally come and kick your ass. I will come drive to wherever you are and take you out, because that's not what this Hangout is about. Please come on to say something about marketing, because do you realize who we have in our presence here? So please.
Would you rather me to point a picture of Christopher Walken working in his garage? Would that be a more attractive picture? I can turn around if you want to.
No, you know, I was thinking Steve Buscemi. We could have Steve on, and you know, and I don't know if you ever saw that meme that went around, but they used to put Steve Buscemi eyes on different girls, and there were famous models for Steve Buscemi's eyes, and it was just hilarious. Yeah, so you could do that. That'd be great. But no, I'm all for the painting. It's just great. And the point of the story was I didn't even notice. So take that for whatever you want.
I'm flattered, obviously.
You want to take it. And man, that is really
flattered.
twisted.
Either that.
I didn't bring a hat, but you did.
That is so twisted.
True.
Yeah.
But you have a hat, see? I don't have a hat.
Exactly.
So I'm noticing your hat.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
As you start bringing people on, and anybody wants to come on, you don't have a hat, but I have Darwin. I'm Darwin.
That's good.
So, not everyone has a new
So hold on a second, guys. Just so you know, the link below the video is now active. Refresh the page. The link will become active. Come into the Hangout if you have questions for Jay aside from the painting, anything about copywriting and marketing. And make sure that you are muted.
I'm going to help them stay concentrated. I'm going to do this. So now they can keep focused.
There you
go. So make sure that you are muted before you come into the Hangout. And just type your questions in the chat. We'll let you in to this wonderful conversation.
Yeah, well, Jay, while we're waiting for people to come in, let me just say this, that another thing that goes to show you how important it is, for at least from my opinion, to set aside that day in your copywriting schedule. And so let me give my lesson for today. You need 4 hours a day for 30 days to really get down the importance of sales copy. So I give everyone the 30-day challenge that you take a pie chart. And you take a circle and you just cut it in half, and so there's your pie chart, and you write sales copy on one side and then everything else on the other, and that is your schedule. That's your schedule for the rest of the 30 days that you start this. And if you do that, my challenge to people is see if they don't triple their revenue in 30 days. So obviously you need tools to do that. Accelerator is one of the best tools ever. You'll need to study to do that. You'll need to work to do that. But that's the promise I've made to anyone, and so far no one has told me that's what I did and it didn't work. So that's my thing about concentration. Now, in order to do that, let me take it one step further. Make sure that those 4 hours are absolutely uninterrupted. So a great book to read for this, and I'm not dyslexic, nor am I saying this backwards, it's called The Art It's called The War of Art. I almost said it right. The War of Art, not The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The War of Art by Pressfield. So Stephen Pressfield. So check that out. He gets into the story of like how he writes, and the diligence of how he writes is the same diligence that I am trying to apply. I would say trying. I hate to use that word, but I am endeavoring, sometimes failing, to try in my own marketing and come in and just say, I'm just getting up early. I'm doing nothing but doing this. And I just started doing this really fairly consistently this past week for an hour to 2 hours at a shot, and it does make a big difference. Today I got massively sidetracked, and I just calculated in my head how much money was lost from being sidetracked by absolutely inane stupidity, the dumbest things you can possibly imagine. And when it got past the $5,000 range, I stopped counting because I just got really depressed. And then I got really excited because I'm coming on with Jay Abraham. And so there was just like many things that were going on. And I just realized that wow, that's how fast you can get sidetracked. So you guys, if you're saying, I can't get my VSL to work, I can't get my sales page to work, are you putting in those hours, and are you making those hours sacrosanct? Are you making them like almost a religious-like experience for you to where it is not broken? So that's my challenge to you. Let's take some questions, and let's see what you guys think.
Well, actually, I have one, because you started, before Jay came in, you started saying that, I can't remember the guy that told you that, but you asked him, you said, hey, you're not married and you don't have any kids. And he said, yeah, so you didn't finish that thought.
Oh, I didn't finish the thought. Well, I did say that he called it. He said, "Well, yeah, but if you're married, it's a temptation killer because you can't go out and drink. You can't drink too much. It's great for fitness guys where if you go out and you drink a lot of wine or whatever, you can't do that too much because at 8 o'clock at night, most people aren't going to do that." And he was kind of kidding about the temptation killer, but harder to do if you're married for sure. But the principle is still the same. And I've got guys I know that are married. They've got kids, and they do get up at like 5 in the morning, and they get their 3 hours in. So Craig pushes it a little further for 4. So I just think that's really cool.
May I offer some perspective? I
Please.
don't want to talk, but so again, I've been very blessed because I've had the great fortune of being around people who were masterful copywriters, and the discipline and the commitment that they made, not just to the words but to the connection that they were making, mind and heart, to the market, was quite profound. And they were very disciplined. They were disciplined in their thinking, critical thinking, deep. They were disciplined in they would do it over and over until it was right. They were disciplined in really trying to understand the market. But they would, you have to look at it, same thing I said. There's no reason, and if you look at how most people spend a day, and you do a chronicle of most people's use of time, and again, the biggest thing, and I learned this, optimization is the highest and best use of time, effort, ability, opportunity cost, and you can't optimize until you first have a context of how you are using your time right now. And if you're using a lot of it for frivolous or low yielding activities, the more, it's not linear. The time you invest in copywriting, if you understand all of the elements, not just the words, but the connectivity part, is going to be it's going to be by orders of magnitude the yield, and you know that.
Oh yeah. Great feedback. In fact, we got some people who want to come on and give their own.
Yes.
I guess lots of questions too.
We do. So Mikhail, you are next. Unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hey, you guys hear me? Here, I'll pop my camera on. How are you guys?
Hey, Mikhail.
Hey, how's it going? So my question for you is, how do you go about establishing viral rapport with your copy? Specifically, at the outset of an interaction, there are a large number of different loops that you can open. And what is your selection on those loops if you're looking for a longer-term relationship with your customer rather than just getting a sale at the end of that copy? If you're actually planning on having, let's say, a 3 to 5 year relationship, what are some of the triggers that you pull? Obviously, there's punishment reward, and there's some others. Can you just talk about that aspect of it?
Is the you me, or is it you, John? Which you?
Good question.
This would be Jay first.
Okay. Well, and I can tell you this works because I've been able to do it for a bunch of people who deal with the millennials. I believe you respect the intelligence of your audience, and you let them in on the method to your madness, but you do it with real authenticity. So if you're playing a long-term game and you're going to basically be there for them for the next 3 years, and you want to basically earn their trust first, and you want to add value first, and you want them to see either a psychic or a financial or a health or or a wealth payoff, you tell them that with not hype in the beginning, and you tell them that. I mean, I'll give you some phrases that are very powerful. One is that it's only a matter of time before I know we will be doing commercial business together, but I don't want to wait for your money to change hands for me to invest in you because I know you're worth it. That's pretty powerful. Another approach is if you want it to go viral, you tell them, but you tell them why. You say, basically, I wish I could reach everybody that I could help. I can't. You can do I'm going to do everything in my power to earn your trust, to earn your respect, and to really enrich you or whatever the product or service does. And if I do, I hope in the future that when I make a commercial offer, that you'll be receptive to it, because hopefully you'll be either paying for it with a fraction of the profits I made you, or you'll be embracing it with a more vital and muscular body, or a more, happy love life, or whatever the heck you're doing. But the greatest additional gift you could give back to me, besides being a loyal and trusted client, is to help me find the other people like you that deserve this. Because and you just sort of set it up and you communicate with them. Everyone's trying to be really cool, and they don't mean to be covert, or it's either covert or it's implicit. And my strategy is be overt and explicit, and just tell them the truth, but do it really heartfelt. But for example, when I do seminars, and I do a lot of them in Asia, where I do them in China and in Beijing and Tokyo, and they're very apprehensive. And what we do is we start by saying two things: that I want to respect your intelligence, and that may sound weird, but most people don't respect their intelligence. So I'll give you another issue I think is very important. But then we say, look, we don't want you worrying what's he doing and why he's doing it. So I'm going to walk you through everything I'm going to do for the next 3 days, why I'm going to do it, how I'm going to do it, what you will experience, and then I'm going to tell you that I may not do it because I'm here for your benefit, and if it doesn't produce the outcome, I'll change it. And they love that because you're respecting their intelligence. I have one more piece of perspective, and if this has any value, I'll be happy, and if it doesn't, John can disconnect me anytime he wants. But I believe there's a big fallacy in giving free stuff. I believe that the market has gotten so calcified and numbed on free stuff that it really has very low value. We never give free stuff. We buy people something, but we also explain what the exchange consideration is. It's almost to us not a contract, but an explicit agreement that is predicated on the performance of our contribution. In other words, it's what is your first name? I'm sorry. The gentleman, what's his name?
It's Mikhail.
Mikhail. So yep. If I were talking to you and I said in an email or in any other form, I would say, Mikhail, it's very important to me that I want to buy you these 3, whatever they are, reports or videos, and I don't want you to pay the whatever they're worth. I want to buy them for you, and I ask only 3 things in exchange. Number 1, if I go to the effort of investing in you something very valuable that I truly and usually sell, I'd like you to reciprocate by taking it and respecting it as if you bought it. Promise me you'll take the time to attentively watch it, listen. You won't be using your mobile devices, and at the end, I won't be intellectual entertainment. That you'll take action if it moves you, and you'll be very mindful of the result that action has, whether it's helping your body or whatever. And then finally, because it only makes sense, if nothing happens, I don't deserve any more of your faith and confidence. And if I were you, I'd probably withdraw and delete my email from your computer. But if I do produce an impressive, a significant and outrageous result for you, it would make sense for you to want to come back. And when I make you much more substantial offers that might be commercial, that you seriously and you sort of investigate and examine it. I mean, and you make a pact, so to speak, if that makes sense. Now, you don't have to use my language, but it's a pretty powerful approach. You may not like it, but that's my answer to your question.
I'd use his language. Just saying, Mikhail, I would use his language. Great question, Mikhail. Thank you, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Mikhail. Next one is Jeff. Jeff, unmute, please. There we go.
There we go. Am I unmuted now?
Hey, Jeff.
Let me guess. I'm the psychic marketer. You live in a fish hatchery.
Yeah, somewhat.
Fish.
Jeff. Hi, isn't this fun, Jeff?
It's a lot of fun. It's so unique because I never get to talk to you anymore.
I know, but now we got it. So, okay, it's your big chance. I'm here.
Just out of curiosity,
yeah.
What is exciting for you right now? And so, at this stage of your career, if there was just one thing that you could do for the rest of your life that is inspiring, invigorating, and something that you know is making an enormous impact in the world, what would that be?
Well, in a duality of ways, I'm actually on the precipice of doing that. Most people who know me know that I started working with real operating diverse businesses. I accidentally became more of a public marketing and strategy, whatever you want to call it. And as I'm older and I want legacy, I want to make a very significant and meaningful contribution on a worldwide basis. I'm evolving to working with regular businesses, and I have a couple that are wonderful. One's called the Kairos Society, and it's a worldwide organization that helps stimulate young entrepreneurs. And this is hilarious since I'm so technophobic, but they are technically oriented, socially focused, commercially based, and they've had this last issue of Forbes, the 30 under 38 of them were their portfolio clients, and they have mentors like Tim Draper, the Nantucket Project, Milken Global, all the people from TED, the high-ranking people mentor them, and I'm involved as their master strategist, and I'm involved now in coordinating all 40 of their associates all around the world with all the B schools. That's exciting. I'm getting involved with the major hedge fund that is really cool and has an advocacy for more middle affluent people, and that intrigues me. We have spent $1 million in 2 years building an e-learning platform for family-owned businesses, 100 to 500 million that are really not very strategic, teaching them strategy and showing them how to get return on investment. And then on the other, and I do a lot of work with, like, I mentor Damon and I mentor Ramit, and I get a very neat cross. I mentor pharmaceutical companies in China and driving schools in Japan. I have a lot of diversity, but I also like to be a benefactor to smaller entrepreneurs who will never do business together, but I can make a contribution to them, and it comes back. And some of them have as their clients big people they refer, and some of them grow to be big. And if they don't, entrepreneurship is the backbone of the world. And I'm getting involved with a lot of young people too, which I was intimidated by, but I'm enjoying it. So I mean, it's different things, but this is fun. This is fun, Jeff.
Come on, it's always fun hanging out with me, Jeff and Jay. Come on. When is that ever not fun?
Never.
Okay, does that answer your question, Jeff?
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Before we jump to someone else in the Hangout, there's actually a great question in the comments from Phil. And he says, first off, you're such a great inspiration, Jay, to so many. I love the way you think about marketing. My question, if you had to start all over today and you only had, say, $1,000, how would you start? How would you go about growing and starting a business?
And I'm going to answer it because I've thought about
Because I
this
asked it,
question
right?
more. It's a great question, but I'll give you a great answer that everybody can use. And there was a time we took this answer to the point of sublime because we developed it very deeply. Privileged to be part of about, I don't know, $2-3 billion worth of revenue that's been created strictly by establishing either strategic alliances or partnering. We call it power partnering or joint ventures, but not just in the form of affiliate marketing. And I'm not knocking affiliate, but we've done whatever anybody wants. I'll tell you a great story, and it will not apply directly, but indirectly to online. So I was in China about 6 years ago, and a young man came to a seminar, and he asked me a heartfelt question. And he said, Jay, what do you do if you're too small and the banks won't lend you the money? And I said, well, what would you do if you had the money? And he said, well, I'm a small motorcycle manufacturer, and I would go to other parts of Asia, and I'd set up manufacturing and distribution and sales and retailers. And I said, well, what do you need the money for that? And he looked at me and said, well, you need money. I said, no, you don't. Find somebody who's not competitive, who's complementary, who's got a factory with a second shift that's not being used, with distribution, with sales force that is parallel, and make a joint venture with them. And that was about a 3-minute answer. And I'll come to this in a minute. I came back a year later. The young man was there, came to the mic looking like a Cheshire cat. And he said, I did what you said. I went to Malaysia. I found a lawnmower manufacturer. They had a whole second shift they weren't using. All I had to do was bring the tool and dies, and those are the pieces of metal you use to make and form and mold metal. He said they already had distributors. They had retailers in 8 countries. We both made $10 million in our first year together each. And the point, now I'm going to take it full circle. I was asked by a newspaper when I first started if they could take all my methodology and my concepts and all my ideas away, and I only had one that I could keep, what would it be? And I said, I would do strategic alliances, because anything you want, whether you want distribution, credibility, production, expertise, you can acquire it, and your problem is always somebody else's solution. And I'll give you one more answer, and I could go, because I've written and done 5-6 days on this. Somebody asked me if I could only have one thing, not one methodology, but one thing, what would it be? And I said, I'd like to have the rights to everything and figure out what to do with them later.
I love that.
That's a good one.
It's
Awesome.
basically what you're saying. It's all about relationships.
Yeah. If I'm boring, I can turn back to the nude.
No. There was just a delay. Just a little delay. Oh, we're all laughing.
Hey, I love John. I'm here just to have a good time.
Hey,
He
that's what I
dribbles. He
said.
passes back to John.
That's right.
Yeah, actually, we could take it back to Kevin. Kevin, unmute, my friend.
Hi, guys. First of all, I'd like to say that it's an honor to be on with both of you guys, and I think you'd have to be crazy if you were on this event not to ask a question.
We agree, Kevin.
With the minds available.
Yeah, it's surprising how few people do.
By the way, Jay, I'm very much enjoying the 50 Shades, so thank you so much for that information coming through. That's great. Also, you guys know a friend of mine, Bedros. I think you guys are tied up with Bedros in a couple of different areas, doing some events together. But I'll get to my question. Here's my question. Jay, I'm in a situation where I'm doing a startup on a shoestring budget, and it's in a very competitive market. I mean, which market isn't, right? It's actually in supplements. It's not in weight loss. And I'm trying to focus on doing a subscription-based business in nutritional supplements and in newsletters/small books. So my question to you is, if you were in this situation, we talked about the strategic alliances. I know you're a big fan of that. But if you were going to model and look at other businesses or other niches, what particular businesses would you look at?
But you're talking about congruent to the product service model you just described, or just something totally different to get into?
No, that's what I'm getting into. So I'm looking in the market.
Well, take a look at this. And here's an interesting concept, because we made our clients a lot of money by thinking in a non-linear but a very critical way. So I was very impacted years and years and years ago. I got started in the very beginning of Entrepreneur Magazine. And the reason it's relevant is that I learned that people who are interested in business opportunity are also people who are interested in options trading, are also people who are interested in commodities. There are also people who are interested in nothing down real estate. There are also people who are interested in getting a new job. There are also people who are interested in the franchise. There's a lot of crossover. So you have three. If I were you and I was on a shoestring, I would make a list of every kindred way, because somebody, if they're taking nutritionals, whether if they're taking them internal and they're ingestibles, you could say, what other forms do people use to get healthy? Well, they do physical training, they join gyms, they buy equipment, they buy other people's books. It's very rare that somebody does a singular thing. And I would look at every kind of direct and indirect access point, and I would look at, depends on how big you are and how validated your product and your marketing is, and I would do as many strategic alliances, and I would be very, I mean, if you know my Parthenon, I would do different things for different people. Maybe I'd give them a book as a front end when they sell their stuff if it's not competitive to yours, and ask them then to to do yours. We used to go to people all the time. When I got started, we were in the gold business, and gold was very appealing to people who were very conservative and believed in hard assets. Hard assets is real estate, gold, things you could hold or see that were tangible. And there were a lot of newsletters that we would work with, and we would do things, depends, you don't have the money, but if a newsletter had a subscription offer that produced subscribers that were great client prospects for us, and they didn't want to market a lot, we would underwrite their marketing for them. I would beef it up. We would give them half of the profit if we made a profit, and we would become the recommended provider and also get joint tenancy of the name, and they would do a seminar in our name, and we would get to send out every quarter a special edition, and they would do an interview that we actually orchestrated. And the point I'm making, without sounding like a poster boy for adult attention deficit, is you don't have to think linear. You can take your product offering and break it apart. It can be sold. It can be the package bonus. It can be packaged together and sold. You can go to related, and I could go crazy with this. I don't know if this helps you or not.
Oh, sure.
And I'm glad you're liking 50 Shades. We have a really fun one coming up in a day or two.
Excellent. That's, thank you so much for the information. That's very helpful.
And I have a question for you, because I'm curious. Everyone's curious about the boobs behind me. What am I looking at with the yellow or the green? It looks like you're in the cockpit. Where are you?
Okay.
What is it?
So here's the deal. I moved my office about a year and a half ago, and I found a great building with a great landlord. The problem is I'm in a basement. There's no windows. So I said to myself, how can I brighten up the space as best as I possibly can? So I came up with this lime green Kermit the Frog color and I've got mirrors in here, and I've got lights, so that's why it's so bright.
Okay, it gets your attention.
Yeah, part of what I do is I'm involved in fitness, so yeah, we want to wake people up in here,
Well, it's very invigorating. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
So our next question is actually again from someone in the comments watching this, and Patrick Edward is asking both John and Jay, how many hours do you put into studying copywriting right now at your stage in your career? Who goes first?
Because my answer is different.
You want to go first, Jay?
I will. So when I started, I put probably, I don't know, maybe 8,000 hours of not just studying, but anytime there was a great ad or mailing piece, I would mount it manually on oversized boards, and I would circle the psychology or the element, and I would read it, and I would write derivatives of it 100 or 1,000 times. And I read Scientific Advertising, My Life in Advertising, and Taken at the Flood about 40 times. And the reason that's important, anybody that knows who Claude Hopkins was, he wrote a book that was a distillation of his beliefs, which is good. But then he wrote a book which chronicles his experiences, which puts into context his beliefs. And then there's another book that's written about the guy that employed him, so it puts that into reality. And I interviewed and paid all the money I had for sessions with famous copywriters. I watched them work. Today, frankly, I don't. Everyone thinks I'm a copywriter or a marketing guy. I'm more of a master strategist, and I think I'm very good at marketing. I don't believe my copy is anywhere as good as it was before because I took it really seriously. And today I take the concept it's driving more seriously. So I don't think my answer today would be as good as John. So John, you can answer it.
I think that your answer is probably better because one of my weird claims to fame was before creating the video sales letter, I had never read a book or studied a single copywriter, which is true. It's just something that I wanted to. I just came naturally. I can't really explain how that happened, but traditional copywriting certainly didn't come naturally, like long form sales letters and things like that. If someone was said write a long form sales letter, which I tried, I totally sucked at it. For whatever reason, the format of a video sales letter just kind of came naturally, and I don't know what it was, but it allowed me to break free of some of the things that I didn't know I was doing and do a lot of the things that a lot of the pros were doing in a slightly different way. And when it started working for me and it started working for other people that I was writing for, I kind of made a vow not to read it everybody else because I didn't want it to seep in. And so I didn't read other copywriters. I never heard of scientific advertising, for example, literally until 2012. So that's about when I started reading other copywriters. It was 3 years. And at that point, I figured now is a good time to read up on some of the greats. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. And there's stuff that I wasn't doing. And there was a lot of stuff I was doing by accident, quite frankly. And so today, I spend less time reading other copywriters and reading about them as I do reading winning sales pages, winning offers, and looking at strategies along with other copywriters I really love and trust. One of my good friends is about to walk in the door any moment now from, he's coming down from, I believe he's still in Portland, his name is Jon, and he's one of Agora's copywriters, and he's an incredible writer, and he's very well studied. And he and I are going to look at his perspective like he's a walking library of copywriters and legends and greats and knows every ad man, knows every guy you can think of. And then there's me. I'm kind of like I was making a joke on the Copy Posse. I'm the Geddy Lee of copywriting. I'm the guy that figured out how to do one thing really, really well and actually got pretty good at it. So it's two different approaches, really. And it just so happens to be that I kind of come across as if I've read probably more than I have. But what I have read a lot of is NLP. So I've read a lot of psychology.
Yeah, and that's massive. I feel like I'm an attorney. May I redirect one more point I forgot?
You may, counselor. You may.
I used to take 2 hours a day and half a day on Friday to go out and try to get sold. I would go to car dealers. I would go to high-priced jewelry stores. I would go to high-priced clothing stores. I would go to carpet, and I wanted to see how they sold. I would drive down the street and look at signage that got my attention and think how it could extrapolate. I would go to the magazine stands because people don't know this, and today it's probably still true. National Enquirer, Cosmopolitan, they pay $500,000 for people to write the blurbs. Now I've got people who read every teaser ad and the AOLs and the Yahoos and bring them to me because I'm intrigued with extrapolating. And I mean, but I think, and there's a book that I would suggest everybody read, and I'm very old-fashioned. It's called A Technique for Creating Ideas, I think, by James Webb Young. And the premise of it, he was the head of J. Walter Thompson in the 40s or 50s. The book is Toilet Reading. It's all of about 40 pages. But he wrote it because the magazines would come to him for ideas on how to sell ads based on concept. When he gave them concepts, they would sell out the magazine. When they were trying to just sell ads, they couldn't. And he basically thought about it, and he thought about the process for coming up with killer ideas. And just to save you reading it, it's and this is what probably was my salvation. You spend a lot of time deeply reflecting on the topic at hand, and then you spend more time reflecting on anything and everything else you can, because breakthroughs come from the outside. And it's like yourself. You came from an outside perspective, and you created, uh, 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 an epic breakthrough that is still profoundly definitive, but it's because you looked at it from a new vantage point.
Sometimes it pays to do that. And when I teach people that they should spend half their day writing copy, I do that for 30 days. I know people that have done that for years, but 30 days of spending half of your day reading copy, working on copy, writing copy. Accelerator's a really good tool for that. There's a link on there to do that. But focus on this stuff and just watch what happens to your business, because it's by far and away the most valuable part of your business is how you present yourself in words. So it's shy of even having a fantastic product, which I firmly believe in. I believe in having the best product you possibly can. But the product graveyard is littered with excellent products that just couldn't sell their way out of a wet paper bag. So without being able to sell your excellent product, you're kind of in the dust. So Yafat, we got to take some other calls before we run out of time, man.
Yeah,
this
we have 10 more minutes,
minutes,
guys. So I think we have probably time for one more question. Donnie Bryant, do you have a question? Unmute? No? Okay, Stu, go for it. Hold on a second. Yeah, unmute.
Do I unmute me?
There you go. Oh, unmute again. There
okay,
you
there,
go.
Donnie?
Yeah.
Am I there?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, John, for putting this together. And Jay, it's an absolute honor. I had no idea I would be on this call this afternoon, and just to be here is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
John, I have finished my first product. The websites are being put together thanks to your 28-day product program. And Jay, I've been working with a guy I think you know, Alex Jeffries. He said that
I know so many people, so don't.
Okay. He worked with Rich Sheffron.
Okay. Oh,
And,
Alec, from the UK.
Yeah.
From the UK? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We went out one night and we got to know each other too socially. We had hangovers the next day. Yeah, he's a very nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, he said you actually slapped him at one point. which is probably.
I wouldn't remember that night. It was some of my more embarrassing moments. But go ahead. What do you want to talk to?
The inspiration was to get him to start coaching people, which he did, and is probably the reason that I'm here right now. So that's good. So I'm just about to launch my first product, which is kind of a mindset product, because there's a lot of people that are stuck, buying things that you just mentioned, how to make money, franchises, online marketing things, and things like that, like I was for a long time, before that you actually take some action and create something, stick your neck out there, so you will, and get that done. So the point where I'm at, the next part of the strategy is to, find affiliates that are willing to promote this and things like that, and just thought maybe you guys have some tips on what I should focus on.
Cool. Well, I think you're focused on the best thing you can focus on, which is creating the product. So congratulations on going through the 28-day product creation formula. I think that deserves a round of applause. And yeah, so in fact, I just texted Rich Sheffer now, just to saying, hey, we were just talking about you on the call, so maybe we can
tell him I said hi.
Drag his ass on this call. So the most important thing to focus on is your sales copy, by far and away. Times 20. That's what you focus on more importantly than anything else. But that's my opinion. What do you think, Jay? What do you think?
Well, I think two things. I'm going to give you a wild perspective, and then I'm going to tell you when we used to do a lot of affiliate, what my attitude was, and John may not agree. First of all, there's a wonderful concept that somebody taught me in marketing, and it's called the Aikido School of Marketing. And I don't know Aikido well, but I'm told it's predicated on using the force of the enemy to your own advantage. If John recorded this, which I hope he did, your preamble was pretty impressive. What is your first name again? I'm sorry.
Stuart.
Stuart. And what I loved was you take the problem and you turn it into the advantage. You can say, look, there's, you probably, there's all these ways to supportedly make money and do this, and you've probably been tried it. And, I mean, and you start with a positioning that puts you in the advocacy role for the consumer, which is pretty cool. Number one. Number two, we would never go out and do an affiliate program until we could pre-demonstrate. We always had um, two reference sets that we would do. One was a very high performing list, and one was a performing list, but one that was a little below average. And we would test it there because we believed that if we went and we took advantage of somebody's affinity, their list, their data, their trust, their endorsement, and it was not a good offer, we would really ruin our access and our trust to them for life. So we would always find some way, even if we paid someone to pre-test our offerings to make sure they were viable before we ever took them to anybody else. And that's a very strong recommendation because people knew that we wouldn't go out and ask them to do something if we couldn't chronicle and we couldn't prove to them that at least it had produced very meaningful successes on an average one or a good one. And if we couldn't, I wouldn't do it. If I had a bomb, which we had bombs, I wouldn't try to get anyone else to sell it because I knew it was a waste of opportunity, cost, and trust. So I mean, I'm giving you a couple of comments, which John may have a different attitude.
No, straight on. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like so what you're talking about is driving to a sales page, obviously. Driving a warm list and a semi-warm list to a sales page to test it out before you go to an affiliate traffic. So I believe in creating the sales pages. If it have to, you create them first. And from the sales page, you create the product because you can actually write your sales letter in VSL in such a way that if you go through this formula, which you know very well because you're a Accelerator member, it walks you through the formula and forces you to think about your product in ways that you haven't thought about it. And a lot of people that don't have their product yet, when they think about it in the way that a marketer would, it changes what they actually put into the product. So inside 28-day product creation formula, I teach you, and it comes free when you get Accelerator, by the way. I teach you how to get paid to create your first product or service. And we use this technique all the time. It's fantastic. Because why on earth would you not want to be paid for doing something? That's people's number one stumbling block. They often think, well, I don't have a product. Create your marketing first. The product almost creates itself. It's pretty amazing.
So one follow-up to that.
We're actually running out of time, and there's one more question. So is that okay?
Sorry, Stu.
How about you put that in the comments?
What would be
so close. Go ahead.
I know, the moderators, right? Moderators, keeping us on time. So last question is for both of you, John and Jay. How do you go about removing resistance in potential clients to new marketing concepts that increase the brand reach and revenue without paid advertising, for example, when they want the results on the offer but are frightened to take a leap of faith?
Fire them.
Fire them.
You're probably not wrong.
The easiest answer I can think of is if someone's saying this. To me, that sounds like this. Hi, Mr. Lamborghini dealer. I would like a Lamborghini, but I have only got a $500 budget, and I don't know how to drive. So what would they tell that guy? Okay, to go fuck off, right? That's a silly. So yeah. First of all, if you're dealing with a client, educate your client that nothing comes without risk. There's no such thing as risk. When they wake up in the bed, if they walk to get their mail, they're taking a risk because you can get hit by a stray bus or something, And second of all, to minimize that risk, that's certainly doable. Minimize the risk by getting enough eyes on that proven copy, enough eyes on that. If you can test it to a warm list, for example. That's certainly one way to do it. But let me say one thing, and I'll let Jay take it from here. I don't believe in trying to sell somebody something that they don't fully understand that they need. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because I have ran into this for 6 years now. Selling a course that teaches you persuasion, copywriting, and creates a VSL for you to marketers who, for the most part, for whatever reason, haven't quite caught on to the fact that sales copy is the oxygen of your business. Without it, you die. You suffer and die. And so, but believe it or not, a lot of people don't know that. So because of that, there's a great deal of education, rapport, things of that nature that goes into it. So one thing you can consider is doing 3 or 4 videos right up front that are just all about the education. What is the problem? Why is this a problem? How is it affecting you directly? And what are the solutions to the problem, then presenting your solution as the definitive solution to that problem. So that is what we've done with Accelerator. That's what we've done with other things as well, where there was somewhat of a knowledge, and people that get it, they get it like that. But people that don't, they go, oh, I really never thought that maybe the sales that I'm not seeing online are related to the fact that my first 5 sentences, first 5 paragraphs in my sales letter are all about how great my product is, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's my approach to that. I don't know if that answers the question, but that's how.
Yeah, I love it. You basically became Donald Trump. You're fired.
Without the hair, I hope. Without the weird monkey hair. Jay, you want to finish that thought, and then we'll call it a day.
I mean, I won't take a client unless we have basically a pact. But the pact is predicated on 3 things. I will never ask him to try anything I can't show a metaphoric or a case study precedent for, because I have an advantage over a lot of people. I have 465 industries, so I have an enormous number of ways to validate and verify. Number 2, I start with them acknowledging the obvious. If you test small and you fail 9 times and you win once, and that can be scaled, that's basically going to transform your life. And third, I basically start with the clarity that breakthroughs don't come from doing the same thing the same way everybody else does it. And I basically have a very deep discussion with them about non-linear but very super. See, I think non-linear thinking is actually supercritical thinking. I think parrot thinking is following what everybody else does the same way everybody else does it, and that's dumber than can be. And I could go very deep on this, but I have to go, and I am grateful, John, and honored that you allowed me to pervade the sanctity of your audience, and I hope I added some value, and I enjoy and respect your work immensely.
Oh, thank you, Jay. You always add value, and I'm deeply appreciative for you coming on. And thank you, everyone, for showing up for this literally at the spur of the moment, last-minute hangout that we did. And Jay, you're awesome. I look forward to talking to you again soon. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. And Accelerator, get it. So, Mommy,
thank you.
Time to sign off.